The moving truck hadn't even left yet when I saw her. She stood across the narrow street, half hidden behind a maple tree, watching me with a stillness that felt intentional, not curious, not casual, intentional. And for a brief, strange second, it felt like time folded in on itself, like I had seen her before, in another life, another version of me. My chest tightened in a way I couldn't explain, like a memory trying to break through fog. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, in the idea that life sometimes gives you exactly what you need when you least expect it, take a moment right now to like, comment, share, and subscribe, because this story, it might stay with you longer than you think. I had just moved to a quiet neighborhood in Portland, Oregon, trying to rebuild something I couldn't quite name. After a failed engagement and a career shift that left me questioning everything, I needed distance. From people, from expectations, from the version of myself I had been pretending to be. The small house I rented was nothing special, but it felt like a blank page, a place where I could start over without anyone knowing my past, or at least, that's what I thought. Because the moment I looked at her again, standing there across the street, I felt something pull at me, a faint recognition that refused to stay buried. Her name came to me slowly, like a whisper rising from deep water. Samantha, Samantha Hayes, and suddenly I wasn't standing in a quiet suburban street anymore. I was back on a college campus in Boston, sitting in the third row of a crowded lecture hall, watching her laugh with her friends as sunlight poured through the windows. Back then, she had been everything I was too afraid to reach for, confident, radiant, effortlessly kind, the kind of person who made everyone around her feel seen, while I spent most of my time trying to disappear into the background. I had a crush on her for 2 years, 2 long silent years, where I never found the courage to speak more than a few awkward sentences to her. I told myself she was out of my league. I told myself it wasn't worth the risk, and by the time I finally worked up the nerve to ask her out, she was already gone. Transferred to another school. No goodbye, no closure, just an empty seat in a lecture hall and a feeling that I had missed something I would never get back. And now, she was standing across the street from me. It didn't make sense. I told myself it couldn't be her. People change, faces blur over time. Memory plays tricks on you when you're lonely enough. But something about the way she held herself, the quiet steadiness in her posture, it was unmistakable. I didn't approach her that day. Instead, I watched as she turned and walked into the house directly opposite mine. My new neighbor. The universe, it seemed, had a twisted sense of humor. The next few days passed in a strange haze. I caught glimpses of her through my window, watering plants, carrying groceries, sitting on her porch with a book in her lap. Each time my heart reacted before my mind could catch up. Each time I debated whether to walk over and confirm what I already knew. But fear is a stubborn thing. It doesn't matter how many years pass. It doesn't matter how much you grow. Sometimes it finds its way back into your chest and whispers the same old lies. What if she doesn't remember you? What if she does? And it doesn't matter. What if you're just reopening something that was never meant to be? So I stayed inside. I unpacked boxes. I rearranged furniture. I tried to convince myself that this was just a coincidence that didn't need to mean anything. Until one evening, everything changed. It was raining lightly, the kind of soft, steady rain that makes the world feel quieter. I stepped outside to take out the trash, not expecting anything more than a few minutes alone with my thoughts. But she was there, standing at the edge of her driveway, staring up at the sky like she was searching for something in the falling rain. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then her eyes shifted and landed on me, and in that instant, I knew. Recognition flickered across her face, subtle but undeniable. Not confusion, not curiosity. Recognition. My heart pounded so hard it felt like it might break through my chest. I took a step forward before I could talk myself out of it. Her name left my lips before I could stop it. Samantha. The sound seemed to hang in the air between us. She blinked, her expression softening into something I hadn't expected, something warm, almost relieved. She walked closer, slowly, as if approaching a memory she wasn't sure would stay real. And then she said my name, Christopher. Hearing it from her again after all these years felt like stepping back into a life I thought I had lost. We stood there in the rain, 2 people caught between past and present, neither of us quite sure what to say next. But somehow, we didn't need to. because the silence wasn't awkward, it was full. We started talking that night. At first it was simple, where life had taken us, how we ended up here, the years we had missed. But as the days turned into weeks, our conversations grew deeper, more honest. I learned that she hadn't just transferred schools. She had left suddenly because her mother had fallen ill. Everything in her life had shifted overnight, forcing her to grow up faster than she ever expected. College, friends, dreams, they all took a back seat to responsibility. And when things finally settled, she didn't go back. She built a new life somewhere else. A life that, until recently, had also fallen apart. A broken engagement, a job she walked away from, a quiet move to a place where no one knew her story. Just like me, it was almost unsettling how similar our paths had been. Two people who once existed on the edges of each other's lives, now standing in the same place, carrying the same kind of wounds. And slowly, something began to change. The walls I had built around myself, walls I didn't even realize were still there, started to crack. With her, I didn't feel the need to pretend. I didn't feel like I had to be someone else to be enough. She remembered me in ways I never expected, not just my name, but small things. The way I used to stay after class to ask questions, the way I always sat in the same seat, the nervous energy I carried when I spoke. "I always wondered why you never talked more," she admitted one evening as we sat on her porch, the sun setting behind us. And for the first time I told the truth. I was afraid, not just of rejection, but of being seen, of putting myself out there and finding out it wasn't enough. She smiled softly, a hint of sadness in her eyes. "I would have said yes, you know." The words hit me harder than I expected. All those years, all that doubt, all the what-ifs that had quietly followed me into adulthood. And yet, here we were, not back then, now. If this story is touching something inside you, if it reminds you of a moment you wish you had handled differently, or a chance you wish you had taken, don't stay silent. Like the video, share your thoughts in the comments, and let someone out there know they're not alone in feeling this way. Because sometimes, the most important moments in our lives aren't the ones we get right the first time. They're the ones we're given a second chance to face. Before I finish, I want to ask you something personal. Comment below and tell me, have you ever met someone again after years and felt like fate was giving you another chance? The turning point came on a quiet Sunday morning. We had fallen into a routine by then. Coffee on her porch, long walks through the neighborhood, conversations that stretched into hours without either of us noticing the time passing. But that morning felt different. There was a weight in the air, a sense that something unspoken was waiting to be acknowledged. I looked at her, really looked at her, and realized something that both terrified and comforted me. I wasn't the same person I had been in college, and neither was she. We had both been broken in different ways. We had both made mistakes, lost things we thought we would keep forever. But we had also grown, and maybe, just maybe, that was the point. "I don't want to miss it again," I said quietly. She didn't ask what I meant. She didn't need to, because some truths don't need to be explained. They just need to be felt. Her hand found mine, warm and steady, grounding me in a moment I had once been too afraid to reach for. And this time, I didn't pull away. Life doesn't always give you second chances, but sometimes when it does, it places them right in front of you, disguised as something familiar, something you almost recognize but not quite, until you're ready to see it for what it truly is. Not a repeat of the past, but an opportunity to do things differently, to be braver, to choose connection over fear. As the weeks turned into months, our lives began to intertwine in ways that felt natural, effortless. The past no longer felt like something we had lost. It felt like something that had led us here. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't afraid of what came next, because whatever it was, I knew I wouldn't face it alone. And if this story stayed with you, if it made you feel something real, something deep, please take a moment to like, comment, and share it with someone who might need to hear it today. Because sometimes, the right person doesn't come into your life at the wrong time. Sometimes, they come back when you're finally ready.